Hey, what's good? Kevin Ryan is a Marine veteran, Chicago Public Schools teaching veteran, and has recently become a school bus driver. He drives a school bus around the state of Illinois because he's spreading the word of his grassroots efforts to become one of the U.S. Senators for Illinois. This is my conversation with U.S. Illinois Senate candidate Kevin Ryan. Before you get into it, remember to go to coconutjustice.com to get you some clothes that I think would look good on you. Let's go. I bet you have heard about van lifing, but I bet you haven't heard about school bus campaigning. We're going to find out about school bus campaigning because my boy here, Kevin Ryan, is running for U.S. Senate for Illinois. So this one's going to be fun. So everybody, welcome Kevin Ryan. Welcome, sir.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
How's it going?
It has been quite the journey. So June 28 is when we launched. So we're just over 6 months. And it's like one of those cases of you don't really know quite how far you've gone until you like take a moment to pause and turn around. And you're like, holy crap. It's like, that's where I was. And here we are now. It's pretty cool. It's been a very formative experience in just a very short amount of time, 6 months. I
Yeah.
launched it in a family, like a family friend who owns a bar in Oak Lawn, Illinois, and we had like a little bunting up, and like as I was giving my speech, I was like reading it off the paper. The bunting fell off. Like there was literally fire trucks were going by, and it was like the most like everything went wrong that you possibly could. I was like, oh, this was my launch. But it was. I mean, it's just from that moment to now, it's been so cool, and it's just so much. I think we'll probably get into it like specific questions and things of
Yeah.
that nature. But I'm just
Yeah.
it's been an awesome ride so far.
I think that's something important for younger folks that are campaigning for office. Um, you're not a polished career politician, so it's okay to be a little nervous. It's okay to not get it 100% up front. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just part of becoming who it is that you want to become. So be patient with yourself. It's cool. Not everybody talks smack for a living.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you should have seen me last night at York Township. I mean, I think I crushed it if I could, toot my own horn. And
Yeah.
it's just where we've come, in that matter of 6 months. But you're right. I mean, I think as long as you start with like being genuine and honest and coming at it from like doing something for the right reasons,
Hmm.
people will see that regardless of
Hmm.
how polished you look,
Yeah.
regardless of, if you speak well and publicly, like if it's coming from an honest place, people see that authenticity. That's what we based this entire campaign on, was being radically authentic, because I think that's so sorely lacking in our politics.
I think that's I think that's what's cool about this younger generation of grassroots. It's that they are coming from the genuine uh wanting to make things better. It's obviously not working.
Mhm.
What was it that like running for the House, running for House of Representatives, I think it's one thing, but running for Senate, I think is kind of like a step above, obviously. But what was it about running for Senate that made you want to do that?
Well, I think it's about the job, and so you always hear that. Um, you want to run for the office to do the thing that you want to do. You should never really just want to run for office or hold office. And I agree with that.
Mhm.
That's why a lot of people like will go for the school board because they care about education, or they'll go for the state house because they want to do something at the local state level. Except that argument, or that position only works at the lower level, right? If you bring it to the higher level, oh well, now you should have started somewhere lower. But I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought we were supposed to go for the job that we wanted, because the reason that I
Yeah.
want to be a United States senator is to amend the Constitution to take money out of politics. Now, we could do that in the House, right? You could introduce a joint resolution, just as you could in the Senate, to amend the Constitution. But in the House, it's majority rule and you're part of a caucus. It's very difficult for one of 435 to make a meaningful impact. And that's why we've seen the Progressive Caucus be so ineffective, because they could say all these things and they can posture themselves, but at the end of the day, they all got in line behind the establishment because it's majority rule. The Senate is very different. The Senate, individual senators have autonomy, which would allow someone like an outsider to come in and leverage that autonomy to do what has to be done. Like Democrats love to campaign on the idea of campaign finance reform, but then they get elected and they don't really do anything about it. And that's been the history of campaign finance reform. If you study, there's a great book called Buying the Vote, and it's by a guy, last name is Much. I can't remember the first name, but Much argues that there's always been a reluctant Congress that has passed a bill reluctantly and signed by a reluctant president, and it only happened because of a reformer stepping in. And so that's why I wanted to run for the United States Senate, because as I was actually trained to run for office by this organization called New Politics Leadership Academy. And I think it's a great organization. They talk about like starting from, what it is that you want to do, be genuine, be authentic, and let that drive you. Understand that politics is a little bit of a drug, and you can become self-absorbed, and you should be aware of all of that. So I think it's a great organization, and they're the ones who said, like, you should, run for the office that you want to run for. But again, that only works at the lower level. Because if you want to run for the United States Senate, they tell you, well, you don't have enough experience. I don't have enough experience. I served on the front lines of public education in Chicago public schools. I served in the Marine Corps infantry overseas. I mean,
I don't know which one is more different. I don't know which one is more difficult.
I'm still trying to figure that out too. So it's like, don't tell me I don't have experience. I worked in the United States Treasury Department. I worked in the Marine Corps infantry. I worked in Chicago public schools. I have executed policy on the ground, the policy that United States senators are writing. What kind of experience do they have on the ground? What kind of experience do they get at Yale Law School? Right. That's the dissonance. And anyway, that's why I wanted to run for the United States Senate. That's the job that I want, because I know that in order to get the changes done that we need, in order to amend the Constitution to take money out of politics by saying Congress has the authority to regulate spending, that money is not speech, and corporations are not people. And the only way to amend the Constitution is by a renegade coming into the Senate and more or less putting everyone else on notice. Being like, I'm not playing by your game. I'm not playing by this money game. You all say this, so we'll get the Democrats in line because they all say this, and then I will get in my school bus, like I've been going to the red counties of Illinois, and I'll go to the red states, and I'll canvass down there for this amendment because 72% of Americans want it. So it's like the majority of people want this.
Yeah.
The only ones who don't are Congress, the incumbents, because this system protects
it benefits them. Yeah.
Yeah.
How frustrating.
Long story short, that's why I wanted to run for the United States Senate.
How frustrating is it for you to be a candidate that wants to do away with Citizens United and that type of politics? But when you are campaigning and you say you want to get money out of politics, and normal people are like, ugh, yet another one.
Well, that's why we're campaigning this way.
Yeah.
Right? Because Democrats love to campaign on the issue. They don't do anything about it. A good example is when the Democrats held a majority in the Senate, and our senator, who's now retiring, Dick Durbin, when he was chair of the Judiciary Committee, there was a joint resolution to amend the Constitution to do the three things that I said I want to do, to take money out of politics, right? It came before the Judiciary Committee. He didn't even bring it up for a vote. I mean, you cannot, at least, even if you don't think there's any chance of passing, bring it up for a vote. Put Republicans on notice if they're not going to pass it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why and this is like the fecklessness of an aged incumbency of Democrats that are not fit for the times. And that's why we need to rejuvenate, especially the United States Senate, where the average age is 64. You were in the Army. Our generals have to retire at 64. Congressionally mandated retirement at 64. So Congress can mandate our generals to retire at 64. Yet that's the average age of the Senate. And they're playing by, and Democrats specifically are playing by a rule book that just does not work in this environment. It does not work to combat MAGA. And so that's why we're doing things differently. I'm not just saying that I want to take money out of politics, that we need to do this. I have a plan to do it. I have a
Yeah.
plan to amend the Constitution, and I have a plan to get the popular support to leverage it. In the way that we're campaigning is we're spending our time with voters. I'm not spending my time on the phone doing what's known as call time, trying to
Hmm.
raise as much money as humanly possible, because that's the only metric that the legacy media and pollsters, take into account. Who raised the most money? Doesn't matter what your ideas are or what you want to do or what you have done. All
Yeah.
they want to know is how much money have you raised, right?
Yeah.
You could just be an evil person, but if you've raised a lot of money, oh, that's the front runner.
Well,
And so
we have that incarnated as we speak.
yes, right. And so people see it when I
Yeah.
when I show them, because I'm the only candidate in this race that has visited all 102 counties. And honestly, I don't know the last time a Democrat in Illinois has visited all 102 counties, because I'm
Yeah.
spending my time with the people, not with donors. And people see that, and they see that radical authenticity. So when I come to them with this message, it's different. It's not just, oh, here we go again. It's, oh, this guy's serious.
Hmm.
And it excites them. People want to get on board. They want to push this campaign over. They want to support, and people have come out in droves to support it for that reason.
Yeah.
Because if we want to take money out of politics, we have to set the example. We have to do it ourselves. And you know what? Democrats could do that in their primary elections. There's no reason that one of my opponents can spend $30 million in a Democratic primary election, especially when Illinois has 3 downstate Republicans in the House of Representatives. Why don't you use that $30 million to get Mary Miller out of office? It's so mind-numbingly out in the open, just corrupt. Like these people don't care about making our government work. They care about their own careers.
Help me understand. If a candidate has $30 million, where does $30 million go?
Where do they spend it on?
Yeah.
It's
It's not like,
mostly advertising.
okay.
So like 80 to 90% of it will be spent on TV advertising, which is incredibly expensive, and then
Yeah.
social media,
Okay.
digital advertising on
Okay.
like streaming services, things like that. Because it's all about name recognition. It's just bombard people the same way
Yeah.
that Coca-Cola has a billboard outside of Wrigley Field here,
Sure.
because they want people to see Coca-Cola, so that when they go to the store, they pick
And
Coca-Cola.
Budweiser over the left field.
Right. Yeah. So same thing. So when you go to the ballot, it's like, oh, I've seen the name Krishnamurthy on TV 1,000 times. I'm going to pick that name. That's
Yeah.
the whole mentality. And it's
Okay.
really demeaning to voters too, to think that it's like,
For real.
yeah.
I was talking to Joe Perez Caputo a couple days ago, and he was talking about, or we got to talking about leveraging technology to, hopefully educate the vote. Have you talked to anyone? Is there anything like that in your campaign where we can leverage, like we vote on American Idol, we vote on all these things, and it's super fast. Why is it that everything that has to do with the government is incredibly slow, and it's easy to say that it's incompetent? It's an incompetent system. What is it that we're not doing, whether it's technologically or whatever? Why is it such a snail's pace?
I think safeguards have a lot to do with that, of election integrity. There is electronic voting, right? If you vote
Mhm.
early in Illinois, you use electronic voting. You have to go to a polling place to do it. But having a paper ballot is like a safeguard for like recounts and things of that nature, and to
Okay.
confirm one electronic measure thing. So if we could just vote on our phone, it opens it up to a lot of. It could theoretically it could be tampered with, but also we handle trillions of dollars a day on our phones for banking, and
Yeah.
our nuclear submarines are controlled by an internet system that is classified and highly
Yeah.
secure. So like theoretically, yeah, there should be a way to make it easier to vote. But I think why it doesn't happen is the safeguard mechanism to maintain election integrity for like
Yeah.
one person, one vote, and making sure that it's that person voting in the right place.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a little disheartening, because I would think that the media or reporters, not, proper, I don't know, maybe like a Schoolhouse Rock or something, to teach people about the different things that they're voting on, so they're not sold on bullshit. It's way too easy to sell people on silliness, and then they vote against their own
Mhm.
interests.
So I think a great way to address that problem is with public elections. Now, that
Mhm.
might sound odd, but we don't have public elections in the United States. We have private elections in the sense that there is no infrastructure to allow a level playing field. And that's why money plays such a big role. If you have the most money, you can bombard the airwaves with your message.
Mhm.
Now, if we had publicly financed campaigns and political parties which cared more about ideas and character than it did about just winning and holding office, then the parties themselves could facilitate, you know, they could take money out of their primary elections. First of all, right? We could have primary rules where you're not allowed to buy TV media, and instead, the Democratic Party of Illinois could host debates for all the candidates, and these debates will be publicly televised on ABC, CBS, WGN for all to educate the people to make this a level playing field so people can
Toss in
hear
some
the
fact
ideas of
checking.
yeah, and fact checking too, right? And yeah, you can do real time. And if we had publicly controlled elections as opposed to this kind of like wild west system where I could put out an ad right now and just flat out lie,
Mhm.
right? And there's no, I'd be
Yeah.
protected under the political speech would be protected under the First Amendment. Uh, so
You
it's
can
just
lie until you're in court.
yeah,
And again,
yeah,
we have that incarnate in office
yeah,
as we
totally,
speak.
totally. I mean, yeah, he did it yesterday, right? I mean, yeah, it's that's why people don't. You're right that people aren't educated to vote because there's this idea that you need to do this due diligence on your own as a voter to research the candidates, and I agree to that to an extent. But also think about the people who are working two or three jobs and have kids and have all these responsibilities, and they don't have. They're trying to make ends meet. They don't have time to go through every single candidate, look at their
Mhm.
website, and determine like it would be easier if on the evening news there could just be equal time to both parties, to all candidates, the way that it used to be before a guy
Mhm.
named Ronald Reagan came in and took a wrecking ball to the integrity of our FCC.
Yeah.
So like that's another way we could do it is go back to the rules of the FCC regulations that have been dismantled about networks providing equal time to parties and candidates so that people can make informed decisions as opposed to just only watching Fox News, only watching CNN, and putting yourself into these holes where you don't get to hear from the other side.
Yeah. It's frustrating as a normal person trying to, like, I'm legitimately trying to help to make change. I'm
Mhm.
legitimately wanting the system to work better. And it seems like politicians are just hell bent on not caring.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I truly so like I was in DC. I worked in DC for about 5 years, on and off. Did some international assignments. I was in the military at the time, um, and I got to know people. I worked in the Pentagon. I worked for the Commandant in the Marine Corps, and we often hosted congressional delegations. I did a fellowship on the Hill, and I befriended a congressman. And I got to get like, peek behind the curtain a little bit, and
Mhm.
after peeking behind the curtain, reminded me of a book I read by Hunter S. Thompson. It's not Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's a sequel to it, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail '72. And Dr. Hunter S. Thompson, I should say, he refers to politics as a drug, and that there's no more powerful, addictive, or destructive drug than political power.
Mm.
And I think he's absolutely right because when we look at sure, there's insider stock trading, which is wrong and should be ended, and people get into Congress and then they become millionaires, but they don't stay there until they die because they're making money, right?
Yeah.
They stay there until they die because they're addicted to a drug,
Yeah.
and the moment they leave, they go through it's almost like survival. I mean, I think I think that's why Joe Biden ran for re-election as president. I
Yeah.
think there's a part of him that's like, if I don't run for re-election, I lose my purpose. And like, what am I going to do? No one's going to care what I think. No one's going to care what I say. They're not going to be hanging on my every word.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that. I saw a congressman from Wisconsin who resigned because, well, there's theories, but there was a theory that he was about to be exposed for an affair. And so he resigned instead of going through all that publicly.
Yeah.
But I saw him after being a congressman, and he just looked like dejected, as if he didn't matter anymore. And he went over to Palantir, first of all, so like great guy.
Oh
Went over
hell.
to Palantir, and he's making probably double what he made on the Hill, but like he lost the drug, right?
Yeah.
He's no longer important. People aren't hanging on his every word. That he's
Yeah.
not going in front of the news media. It's like the political drug it like feeds on this incarnate or this innate thing that we all have inside of us, which is just the desire for affirmation. You know, that when
Mhm.
you're a kid and you're like, hey, mom, dad, look at this. Did I do good? That never goes away. Like we seek for affirmations from our parents, from our lovers, from our friends. And when you're in politics, and I've seen it myself now over the last 6 months, you start getting affirmations from the general public. And
Mhm.
it is intoxicating. It's like,
Yeah, it feels
whoa,
good.
like people like they're like, I'm the best. Like I'm not a hero to them. This feels so good. And that's why, in fact, that's why on the bus I have a painting of Caravaggio's replica painting of Caravaggio's Narcissus staring into the pool of water from Ovid's third book on Metamorphoses to
Mhm.
remind me that that's what I'm getting into. I'm getting into this drug, and if I let it consume me and become all self-absorbing, I'm going to destroy myself, just like Narcissus destroyed himself.
Yeah.
I don't know really how we got onto Narcissus in Greek poems, but
It
uh,
happens.
all that to say is, yeah, I don't know. Actually, I can't remember where we got.
It's fine. It all makes sense though. Um, yeah, like for people who don't like politics but do like football, it's kind of like that old, whether it's a running back or
Yeah, yeah.
linebacker or whatever, it's what you have done your whole life and
Mm-hmm,
you love it, especially if you're playing football at a place as
mm-hmm,
passionate, say, as Soldier Field. Like
mm-hmm,
Chicago folks are passionate about their sports.
mm-hmm.
Nobody understands it. Well, the markets, right? New York, Chicago, LA, they're passionate about their sports. If you get all that love and attention, you don't want to give it up. And then those guys, they have CTE on the table. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
eventually you gotta weigh the pros and cons, but it makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually a great example. You know, I haven't thought about that way, but yes, it's like it's the same drug. They're getting the affirmations from the roar of the crowd. Um,
Hmm.
in their case, they're risking CTE. In our case, we're risking not having enough Democrats on the Judiciary Committee because one of them is dead, and so we can't, appoint justices or judges, and then they
Yeah.
pack the federal courts with conservative judges, and we have what we have today.
And that's a really good time to let go when you don't know how to fix your email account and you're still trying to fix the VCR because it's blinking 12. It's time to let go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, for sure.
please, please.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. I'm trying to we have to open the door for the generations that are coming in
Yes.
because they're the ones that know how TikTok works. They're the ones who know how all this stuff works and how they want their country to go.
Yeah, and as a military guy yourself, I mean, you understand this. I mean, think about like a military unit and how you're at the Marine Corps, you had a battalion for like 3 years, and you'll probably have two different roles in that time, and then you move on to a new unit. But like, sure, if you're a company commander and you stayed with that rifle company for 40 years, yeah, you'd be an amazing company commander, right?
Hmm.
You'd be the best company commander in the entire United States Armed Forces. But the moment you leave, like your lieutenants, they, if they're, what did they learn, and how do they
Hmm.
know how to do this? I mean, even at my first reserve unit, I had a gunnery sergeant who had been there his entire career, and he worked his way up, and been there for a long time. And when he left, the NCOs like were kind of left flat-footed because he had just done so much and they weren't really prepared to take on that role. And so it's like a similar thing. There's a reason the military moves people around, moves them
Mm-hmm.
up and spreads the love so that everyone can learn and grow and it can continue to rejuvenate itself. But if you just have one generation just locking it down,
Mm-hmm.
we're skipping over generations and how much talent
Right.
did we not talent, energy, vigor of these
Yep.
people going into
Great
these spaces.
ideas.
Yeah. But they had to wait their turn. And then next thing you know, they waited their turn and now they're 75. It's like
And
it's
yeah, that finding that time to let go, boy, that's powerful. Being able to hand the keys off to me is one of the most important attributes someone can have when running for office is knowing when good enough is good enough.
mm-hmm.
That being said, you were sneaking in here that you're in the military. Are you a Marine?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. What made you turn into a Marine?
I don't really have a good answer.
Yeah.
People say like they have heard the calling or whatever. I joined the Marine Corps because when I was in college, we were still in Iraq and Afghanistan, and people my age, people I went to high school with, were being sent to war, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Why them and not me?"
Mm-hmm.
So joined the Marine Corps infantry and did one tour in Afghanistan right there at the very end, and then went to a couple other places. And I mean, it was a completely transformative experience. It was one of
Yeah.
the best things it did for me. And in fact, my time in the military is what radicalized me into a progressive because of seeing how the government can work for its people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used the GI Bill to go to college.
Same.
And then I still to this day get VA healthcare. And
Same.
I know that it's like not everyone has had a great experience with it, and very much depends on where you go. But I go to Jesse Brown here in Chicago. It gets a bad rap, but I've had a phenomenal experience at Jesse Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's like why can't we do this for everyone? And the simple answer is money, right? So I actually talked about this last night in York Township. We spend somewhere around $15,000 on VA healthcare per veteran every year. And so if we did that for everyone, if we wanted to like take the VA model, which is a step above Medicare for all, we're just talking about like government healthcare, right?
Yeah.
It would cost about $5.2 trillion if we went by that $15,000 estimate. And our budget, this last budget, was $7.1 or $2 trillion. So we're talking about like nearly doubling the budget. And so then we ask, okay, well, can we afford that? Yes, we can. If we restructured our tax system, if we taxed wealth, if we taxed the interest as it was income, if we closed offshore loopholes, if we increased the tax bracket similar to the New Deal, then we would be able to fund these things. Why
Huh.
doesn't that happen? Because the people with that wealth use that wealth to contribute to candidates who make sure that we don't touch that wealth, because
Yeah.
we can't be taxing that, because taxing is evil. So let's pass all these regressive taxes and make the working class bear the burden of it without providing any services for them and continue this corporate welfare.
Yeah.
So like, anyway, that was my journey from the Marine Corps to
Let me add this
progressive Democrat.
because we're on this topic. Here's my idea for how to afford all these things that would improve America. We don't bomb a country.
Oh, that's a good start.
I don't know. I know people call me out there sometimes, but
But what are the CEOs at Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Palantir? How are they going to afford their yachts if there's no wars
their
overseas?
their fourth yachts. Yeah, yeah, those guys that everyone keeps voting for, but you never get in. All these folks that are voting for rich people, they never get invited to their parties
No, they don't.
ever.
No, and honestly, if people knew, like also people ask me like, oh, are you gonna like, you should like write a book about this experience, and maybe, but they made me think about like, what would the title be? I think the title of the book of this experience would be "It's Worse Than You Think." An inside look to Illinois politics and diesel mechanics. It is so bad. The campaign finance, what people do. I got a Christmas card the other day from a member of Congress, just
Yeah.
a family Christmas card that said paid for by their campaign. Like what
Oh,
they use their campaign funds for is is ridiculous. And they will
yeah.
and they'll budget these or call these like events, fundraising events, and they'll go out of state. They'll go on ski trips, they'll go on scuba diving trips with wealthy donors and call these fundraising events. Use the money that they've fundraised to buy their plane tickets and all that to go to these events to raise money from these people. And meanwhile, they're throwing ads in our face and they're saying, like, I am doing everything I can to fight Trump. Can you chip in $5? Yeah, chip in $5 to fund his flight out to Park City, Utah. Like it's so gross. It's so manipulative. I mean,
Yeah.
in this race, Roger Krishnamurthy is particularly bad. He's focusing on ICE and saying how like this like he'll have an ad about ICE and say, "Can you chip in? I'm doing everything I can to fight Trump." That's so misleading and deceptive because he's raising money for the Democratic primary. None of that money is going to fight Trump or Republicans or defund ICE. He has that money that he could transfer to the Illinois Democratic Party or downstate candidates to actually beat Republicans. But no, he's using it in his own race because he really wants to be a United States senator. And he cares more about that than what ICE is doing. I guarantee that because he's proving it through his actions and how he's trying to manipulate people, prey on their fears to raise money from their limited incomes because they can't even afford to live. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how gross this whole system is, and it's infuriating to see it, and it's everywhere, Democratic Party and Republican Party.
Yeah. That's something that's been a little bit hard for me to stomach is now that I'm talking to more candidates and you find out that the fight isn't just between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, but when you get into the parties themselves will stamp down some grassroots candidates that are
Of course they
maybe
will, because
making a
they're
little
challenging
noise. Yeah,
the system that keeps them in power. That's what incumbents care about, one thing, and staying in office, and that's why they do these things. That's why nothing happens with campaign finance reform, because it's a really hard club to get into. If you're
yeah.
one of the 535 members of the House and Senate, that's one of the most exclusive clubs in the world. And
Mhm.
that means you found a way to get in there playing this game. And now that you're in, that game protects you. So why would you
Mhm.
want to change the rules to make elections more competitive? You had to raise all that money to win your seat. You're going to let some Joe Schmo just come in here with a publicly financed campaign to challenge you with his ideas? That means you'd have to talk to people, for God's sake. The idea that our elected officials would have to come down and speak to voters. It's a wild concept.
Help me understand how I'm trying to formulate the question without I don't know if this is true, but when a Speaker of the House is in contention for Speaker of the House,
Mhm.
I've heard, or from what I understand, a lot of times is because they're a really good fundraiser. Is that true?
I think it's the Speaker of the House election, I think, is more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It also depends on which party we're looking at, because Nancy Pelosi was a really effective organ, and that's why she was able to hold on to that for so long.
Okay.
But a general answer is yes, that the person with the most money has the most influence because they can spread that money around, and
Mm,
they can help other candidates and so forth. They just have a better funded operation. But that's not the only factor that goes into Speaker of
yeah.
the House, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I've heard a couple times, and it depends on where you hear that information, how they word it. And I just personally have always wanted clarification on that. Because if that's the case, then that's not cool. We
Yeah, like I don't think Mike Johnson is a prolific fundraiser, or was before he was Speaker of the House. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I have to look at it, but he was just like the compromise candidate. But I
yeah.
think in the sentiment that you're getting at, there is a truth in that politicians only have one metric for success, and that is fundraising. And so that's how they compare themselves, like as if they're
Yeah.
like football players, right? Those are their stats. It's the only stat. The
Yeah.
only stat. How much money do you have? And that's what they go by. And that's why money controls everything. And if only we could take money out of politics, maybe then we could make the stat like how much legislation have you sponsored that's become law? Because
Mhm.
again, picking on Raja Krishnamurthy again, he's been in Congress for 5 terms and he's passed 4 bills, sponsored 4 bills that have become public law, and each of them renamed a post office. So what are you doing in those almost 10 years that you've been in office? Well, the easy answer is he brought $19 million into the Senate race. And when you can only raise $3,500 a pop, how do you get the $19 million? You spend a lot of time on the phone, day in and day out, for 8 years, raising money for the inevitability that our 80-year-old senator is going to retire. And then you unleash all that money because you really want to be a senator. But like, why do you want to be a senator? What have you done as a member of the House of Representatives? Like, he's an eloquent speaker. He says the right things. But what is he doing? Renaming post offices? Is that how he? Is
And
that how he Trump?
imagine being a normal person with a normal job. Let's say you're a bus driver. Back in the day, back when I was a kid in Chicago, it was the green limousine. Let's say you're driving
I'm
around
kind of a bus driver now, and it's
But
green.
imagine being a bus driver for 10 years and you only made 4 trips. Would you keep your job?
Well, if your job was based on that, probably not, right? But
Yeah.
the job of members of Congress, it's not legislating, it's fundraising.
Yeah.
That's why no one cares. And they do this little trick. Well, first of all, let me say it's incredibly difficult to sponsor a bill that becomes public law, right?
Mhm.
It is difficult. We cannot, discount that. But what a lot of members, pretty much every member of Congress does, they will introduce a bill knowing full well that they are not going to pursue it, that they are not going to try and even push it through committee,
Yeah.
just so they can give out a press release and say, today I introduced a bill to do so and so. I mean, even like another opponent in this race, Robin Kelly, she said she was going to introduce articles of impeachment for Kristi Noem. And while I agree with that, it is more performative than anything else because there's no chance that that's going to pass the House of Representatives. And so they introduce these bills, or Republican-controlled House of Representatives. Right. So they introduce these bills, and they don't follow them through to try to actually get them over the finish line, but they get to look like they're doing their job. And then when you actually count the score, it's like, oh, you haven't actually sponsored any meaningful legislation. They will try to tell you that they co-sponsored it. And sure, co-sponsoring is important, but co-sponsoring just means that you really support a bill. It just means you support it. You're not really contributing much to the offering of the bill.
You're clapping while your classmate is handing in their homework.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's certainly collaboration that happens on especially like bigger pieces of legislation at the co-sponsor level. But when I was on the Hill, what I saw was a member would send out an email. Their legislative director would send out an email to the caucus and be like, "Hey, my member is going to introduce this bill. Do you want to sign on to it as a co-sponsor?" And the legislative director will probably go like, "Yes or no," or maybe ask the member, but if they want to, and that's that. And that's it. Right. That's the level of collaboration. I mean, I never really even saw members of Congress work together. It was mostly their staffs that were going from office to office. And it's just like, I just don't think a lot of people, unless they've been in DC and spent some time on the Hill, like know just how dysfunctional everything is because they spend so much time fundraising instead of actually doing their job. It's so sad. They literally have these little houses, apartments just outside of the Capitol on Capitol Hill because they can't do political stuff in federal property, right? So they'll go out to their car or they'll go out to these little call centers, literally little cubicles, and they put and they're making calls. The people are holding them giving them business cards of who to call, and they spend a couple hours a day fundraising, instead of researching issues,
instead of doing their job,
issues, writing legislation, debating the legislation. No, they're just raising money, and for what end? For what end? They keep telling themselves this lie that, if I just do this, then I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
But if you just keep doing this, then no, you can't. It's like, like what's the
If
point?
you keep doing the same thing,
You
expecting a
can't.
different result,
You do not have the time. You just literally do not have the time to be an effective legislator if you are spending a third or more of your time on a call in a little cubicle just off of Capitol Hill.
yeah,
It's gross, and it doesn't work. And the only reason it keeps going is because it's about personal ambition. And
yeah,
if I fundraise, the party is going to think I'm good. The party leadership is going to put me in a good committee spot. I'm going to be able to move up. Maybe one day I can run for the United States Senate. Maybe one day I can get a cabinet position, or maybe I can run for the United States presidency. And it's
yeah,
like, if I'm fundraising, if I'm good at fundraising, that gets me closer to that. It has nothing to do with what you believe in or what you've done. It's just all about money. And that's why nothing works. And so when we hear even Democrats say, like, we need this and we need that, we need Medicare for all, we need universal child care, we need fund education. Yes, of course, we need all these things, but you're not addressing the root issue, and you refuse to look it in the eye. It's not just Citizens United, because
yeah.
Citizens United only deals with super PACs. That's the dark money and the
Hmm.
independent expenditures, like some billionaire coming in and buying a bunch of ads to help promote a candidate. We're not talking about Buckley versus Vallejo in 1973, which said it's unconstitutional for Congress to have spending limits because there used to be campaign spending limits. And if
Yeah.
that law was still on the books today, the spending limit for my race would be $5 million. Raja Krishnamurthy has already spent $11 million on TV ads alone. And so it's not just Citizens United, it's Buckley versus Vallejo. We have to stop this endless money chase. I mean, Senator Durbin himself said it on This American Life, I think in like 2013. The average American would be shocked, not surprised, shocked if they knew how much time a United States senator spent fundraising. It's why our government doesn't work. And so anyone who tells you they're going to do this or that or that or this, if they don't talk about taking money out of politics, overturning Buckley versus Vallejo and Citizens United with a constitutional amendment, they're full of shit. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
you have to address the problem. And
Yeah.
if you refuse to address a problem, the reason you refuse to address it is because you're feeding into it, because you're playing by those rules so that you can get into office, so that you can be a member of Congress or a senator, et cetera, et cetera. But it's
Yeah.
not about fixing the system. And that's why I I refuse to be a part of that game. And so I'm trying to do something different, which is just raising only what we need to talk to voters in every single county of the state, in every single neighborhood in Chicago. And that's what we've been doing. And I think that's how we're able to amass the social media following that we have in just 6 months. I mean, we're going over the metrics yesterday, and we got like 20 million views in 6 months, and went from 0 to 50,000 followers across all platforms again in 6 months. And
Oh
I'm not
boy.
an influencer, right? I'm
Yeah.
not an influencer.
Yeah.
I'm
You're a
just someone
senator.
who's, I'm just, yeah, not yet. Soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. I was reading the tea leaves.
Because I'm just being radically authentic, and I'm calling out the bullshit because it is. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what people are fed up with, because they all like, why doesn't anything work? The reason it's money. So
Yeah.
let's call it out and let's do something about it. And even the Democratic Party refuses to do anything about it. They could make a rule. They could put spending limits at the party level. They could host public debates and advertise them. Like, no one cares about fixing the actual problem, and that's why nothing changes.
Yeah. So you've been talking about going out and campaigning, and then you tossed in a little joke about the when we were talking about the green limousine. So you're out there putting boots on the ground in a good way, driving
Yeah.
around Illinois in a school bus.
Yes, sir. 2002 Chevy Bluebird.
Let's go. Does it have a kitchen in it?
So I was saying how that fridge right there is the same fridge we have on the bus. So the
Yeah.
bus has a little kitchenette, got a fridge, 30-gallon water tank, sink, microwave, 2 couches that can be used as beds, like a 40-inch TV from Salvation Army. And I got my office in the back as well, where I have my grandfather's old wooden desk bolted into
Oh, wow.
the side of the bus.
That's awesome. Tell me about
Yeah.
your grandpa. Why has he got this big ass wooden desk?
Well, it's actually not that big. It's a normal sized desk, but
Yeah.
so it just happened. Well, my grandpa, he was a teacher, right? So I kind of followed in his footsteps. He was a Chicago public school teacher. He was in the Navy too, and he was also on the Chicago Board of Education. And when he died, I just commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I came home to see him, and I wore my dress blues, and he like got out of his chair and he gave me a salute, and then a day or two later, he told my mom, "I think it's time to close up shop." And then he went on like hospice on palliative care, and then he died a day later. They were basically doing an estate sale, and I was like, "Well, I can't let this desk go."
Hell
and, so,
no.
and so
No,
I took
sir.
that. I mean, it's a good wooden desk. You know, they don't make them like that
Yeah.
anymore. And so I it's followed me everywhere I've gone. I brought it with me to my first classroom in Bronzeville, and then it came with me to my second classroom in Logan Square, and I also brought it to DC with me, and now it's on the bus. And so I've done a lot of work from that desk, and I hope one day to move it into the United States Senate. I'm gonna move. They have those big wooden like mahogany desks. I'm gonna throw
Yeah.
that out. Get that out. Get that out. I want my grandpa's small little wooden desk. That's the
I
perfect.
can't
Perfect.
wait to see that picture, man. I cannot wait to see that picture.
You know,
Um,
actually, the desk also made another prominent appearance. So the Illinois American Federation of Labor and the AFL-CIO, they uh, they didn't let me speak at their candidate forum, and so and I'm a union member too. I'm the only union member on the ballot, and I was pretty you know uh, shocked by that they would just deny a union member a chance to get a seat at the table. Like that's the whole point of organized labor is to get a seat at the table, right?
mhm.
So when they didn't give me a seat at the table, I brought my bus to the forum and I took out the desk and I put it in the middle of the driveway that everyone had to go through to get to the forum. And I said, if they're not going to give me a seat at the table, I'll bring my own.
I've noticed you have no fear when it comes to doing things for your campaign to show your passion for making change. So now we know you take your own table to places. I've seen you jump in the freezing Lake Michigan water. W- how- I'm from there, and I know you're from there too. But for people that don't understand, the water in Lake Michigan is freezing. Literally, like there's a couple sheets of or a couple inches of ice, and you decided to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I basically just made an offer to my grassroots supporters who've been supporting me all the way. You know, I figured they keep giving, they keep giving. I'm like, I'm not giving anything back, really. So I thought I'd make it fun and be like, if we reach our fundraising goal, I will jump into Lake Michigan on New Year's Day. And we crushed the fundraising goal. Just asking people for $3.
We got to make sure people aren't trying to kill you.
I know, and I was like, oh man, I guess I actually have to do it.
And what was the other one? Oh, there was this one. So to put into context, everything that happened in Minnesota and Minneapolis yesterday
Mhm.
with ICE, in my opinion, going above and beyond what they were supposed to do. They crossed a line. Up to this point, I was able to say, yeah, some people are being a little soft about this, but after yesterday, I agree with a lot of very left-leaning people in condemning what happened. And similarly, you were in, was it Broadview?
Mhm.
You were in Broadview and you confronted ICE. It was an ICE detention center, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And I saw you um defending and standing there and protesting in these knuckleheads' faces.
Mhm.
Number one, as someone with my complexion, I want to thank you because and I've said this a number of times. Spanish folks listen to Spanish folks, black folks listen to black folks, and white folks listen to white folks. So when we see white folks coming over to help us personally, thank you. Thank you for joining the fight, because these are the stories that my community has been saying for decades. We're getting fucked with, we're getting beat up, they're shooting at us. The people that are supposed to be protecting us are fucking us up. So, number one, thank you. Thank you for going out there and confronting and showing that you are willing to put your body on the line to help a situation that is completely out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to jump in and like try to explain yourself, but or not even explain yourself, but explain the story. Tell us the story about how that grew into you being out there. But I hate that white people get labeled this white savior thing when they're
Mm-hmm.
only trying to help. And you know, people like you that see what's happening and they're trying to help. And people are like, well, I don't know what he's up to. It takes me to this story it's a little story or a little fable or whatever, where there's a guy floating in the ocean. He's about to drown and he's like, God, save me, save me. And there's a boat that shows up, says, hey, let's pull you out. And no, God is going to save me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second boat, and then the third boat. After the third boat, the guy drowns. He goes to heaven and he confronts God and he says, why didn't you send me help? He said, I sent you 3 boats.
Mm-hmm.
I personally am thanking you for going out there and confronting these idiots that are just bullying this community. How did you learn about Broadview? What was it that took you there? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it's Trump's weaponization of not just ICE, but ERO and Border Patrol and other federal law enforcement agencies, to be frank. I mean, I saw the Bureau of Prisons out there as well. Um, the weaponization of that against our communities and our people is just outrageous. And you have these guys cosplaying as military. And one, as a veteran, I'm like, oh, what was boot camp too hard for you? Were you one of the guys that was where you would punch a drill instructor? That's how tough you are. That's
That's
why you
how I
couldn't
see
do
it
it.
too.
Yeah, when we were out there, I swear I saw it there. This was 9:15 in the morning. There were guys in tactical gear with nods attached to their helmets. I'm like, you're showing just how little you know, because no one does that, because you're going to lose or damage that piece of equipment. Like, you're just trying to look cool. You're more concerned about looking cool than you are about um, you know law enforcement or safety. And so they were terrorizing communities in Chicago, like pulling people off the street, wearing masks, not identifying themselves. It's outrageous, and they're still doing it. They're doing it in Milwaukee and elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so with basically the transformation of the Broadview facility into a detention center, a concentration camp with deplorable living conditions, I felt compelled to go out there as well to voice my dissent. And I think veterans have a very strong and powerful voice. And I take inspiration from the Vietnam veterans against the war. And so I wore my suit, the same suit that I wear on the campaign trail. And then I wore my medals too. But I didn't wear my miniature medals. I wore my full medals as a subtle protest. So people would know that it was my own forms of subtle protest, wearing my full size medals. And I stood there with a sign that said veterans demand to stop militarizing our streets. And I stood there silently and didn't move. I just had that sign. And what I saw was Gregory Bavino and his goons come out with an armored vehicle that belongs in Afghanistan into a crowd of protesters, and they immediately tackled like 3 100-pound, 4'0" women, and then left me alone. I mean, Bavina was the only one who made me break my, my silence. We made eye contact as he was walking past me, and I just, like, from deep in the gut, had to release a "fuck you." You know, the one when you bite the lip.
Yeah.
Because his everything about him, he is just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And not concerned with safety at all. He's aggrandizing himself at the expense of our neighbors, and they are criminals, and they need to be held accountable. And that's why I was out there, because I think veteran voices are particularly important, especially because this was happening as Trump was trying to federalize the National Guard, putting National Guard on the street, militarizing our cities. And veterans have a very unique perspective, having served. I think we have to step up and speak out. So it's like even more so than just like, it's not that I'm white, it's that I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
I feel compelled. Like, I can't be silent. This is not what we signed up for.
Yeah.
To see our streets get militarized. And I know for like people who didn't serve in law enforcement or the military, it can be difficult to understand the difference between the two. And like a lot of like sympathizers of Trump might not see like a difference between the two. They often get lumped together, like, thanks to our veterans and first responders, police and fire. But there's a very big difference. Law enforcement is meant to de-escalate.
Yeah.
The military, when I was trained in the Marine Corps infantry, our job was to create chaos, locate and close with and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver. Like the logo of the infantry officer course is a painting of Belleau Wood of a Marine standing over a German soldier with a bayonet through his chest. And that is the purpose of the military. Then that's to defer and defeat our threats, right? National security threats. That's not what we put on our streets. We put law enforcement, which is meant to de-escalate, which is trained in de-escalation, to maintain the peace. Their job is to maintain peace and stability. That's why yesterday, what we saw in Minneapolis was the exact opposite. And this is what happens when you just rapidly increase the size and budget of ICE, which is, I think, the same size as the Marine Corps now. And you don't vet these guys and you don't give them a lot of training, and they go out there and they are lethally incompetent. And that's what happened. That's how we saw with the murder that happened yesterday. Lethal incompetence, because we're not vetting these guys, and they don't know what they're doing, and they have impunity. That's why it has to stop. That's why I think veterans have to stand up and speak out against that. They are not doing their job. You know, when I was in Afghanistan, kids would throw rocks at us all the time. And I'm talking like baseball-sized stones.
Sure.
Right? And there was one kid, I swear it was like the Afghan, like the Pashtun version of Kurt Schilling. And he comes up with a running start. And now he's 10 feet away from me. And he just belts a baseball-sized stone, and it hits me in the face. And I don't even have my rifle. I only have, because we're right outside the wire. I was just checking something right outside the wire. And that's when they all would come out and throw stuff at us. I had my M9 on me, my pistol. And should I have taken out my pistol and shot and killed that kid because my life felt threatened? It's like, grow up. Be like,
right.
This person, that woman was not trying to harm anyone. She was not endangering anyone's life at all. And you shot and kill and murder her in broad daylight. What is wrong with you? The people who are performing these roles, they are unhinged. They need to be held accountable. We need to defund ICE and unmask these people and hold them accountable. Like they are a threat.
Yeah.
Like the state, it's like state-sponsored violence.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not even, it's even almost
just
beyond
for social media aggression porn, you know?
Totally. I mean, yeah.
That's why they make those videos about like collecting all these guys and putting the chains on them and making them look a certain way.
I'm like, yeah, you're so tough. You're so tough that the guy in body armor, the armed guy in body armor, to go raid a Home Depot, the armed guy in body armor shoots an unarmed woman in a minivan.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like
that was trying to get away. Oh, she was blocking the road.
I made a
it's not his
post
job to kill.
I made a simple post about that yesterday, saying that this shows basically what I said. how these people are not vetted and they're not trained and how they're lethally incompetent. And it's that lethal incompetence that is a danger on our streets. And the comments section was the most appalling thing I've seen. And I've gotten, I'll get personally ridiculed all the time by random folks or something. Like, I don't care about that. But this one in particular, the comment section was just heinous and inhumane and like not caring about human life.
Yep.
And this is a clear wrong. There's no way to justify this at all. Yeah. Even if she was trying to run him over, which she wasn't, he didn't get hit and she's driving away. And you shoot, like, it's the same thing. If that kid threw that baseball sized stone at me and I took out my gun and shot and killed him.
Exactly.
No, be the bigger man. Like, de-escalate the situation and maintain public order. That's their whole job.
And this is what's weird. It's weird because a police officer can see a car, not even in the same situation. They see a car, they run the plates. And then they either follow or they find you, and you know what I mean? Like, I've had a car repossessed before. They know how to find you.
They don't open your door. They don't try to open your door and pull
and then pop you from point blank.
It just shows how much these people don't know what they're doing. In fact, before I left for Afghanistan, and this was I was a reservist who got mobilized. My first sergeant was a state trooper. He is still a state trooper in Minnesota. And right before we left, he got assaulted on a traffic stop. Someone pulled him into the car, and his partner was like second day on the job and was not very trained and didn't know what to do. So he's kind of on his own, and he's just getting like beat up inside this car. He could have taken out his gun, shot and killed that person, and would have been justified. Like, yes, my life felt threatened. This guy is beating the crap out of me. He pulled me into the car and was beating the crap out of me. He didn't do that. He took a few punches and was able to get himself free and was able to detain the person.
Yeah.
He didn't murder him, right? That's the whole idea about de-escalation, is that you can take some of it, right? You can take a few blows. You can take people spitting at you, throwing something at you. You don't use lethal force when people are unarmed, right? That's the whole idea, that these people they're not trained. They're not trained, and they're armed on our streets, and that has to stop. It absolutely has to stop. And I think to bring it full circle, I think veterans who have the firearms training, who have experience in combat and military training, and who know a little bit of law enforcement, since a lot of what we did in Afghanistan kind of resembled law enforcement, at least when I was there. It's important for us to speak up and talk about these things, because most of the people that are defending this, they didn't serve in the military. At least that's not what I've seen in my comment section. Because people have no idea what they're talking about, and the veneer of a screen provides some protection for them to say things that they would never say in person. They would never 100%. Say it to their face.
I remember a lot of those are going to be bots too.
Right, of course, totally.
So, but yeah, no, I know people that would take the time to write those ignorant ass comments. It's a terrible situation. And I'm looking forward to getting new people in place that are going to start squelching all of this silliness that's happening.
Yeah.
Because this is not how you do it. Over surveilling, over policing, blaming people for being dumb and lazy, but you don't invest in the different communities the way that you do in demolishing other communities around the world. If you want to make a policeman's job easier, give him better people to deal with.
Invest in housing, education,
healthcare. Yes. People that steal are people, generally speaking, if you're in the inner city, if you steal something, it's because you don't have something, and there's a gap in finances that needs to be filled. In Washington, they steal from you every day, and you don't see cameras and guns and police going through there, do you?
Yeah, I would say that every minute that a member of Congress spends on call time is fraud, waste, and abuse. And perhaps everyone should call the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline to report their members of Congress. They were elected to legislate, not to
Not
raise
call.
money for their next reelection. Oh, and by the way, when they're calling those wealthy people asking for donations, what do the wealthy people get in return? They get to plant their seeds in their ears. They get access to these people to make sure that their legislation doesn't negatively impact them.
Yeah.
I think, just to go on a small tangent, one of the best examples of this is right to repair, which is something that would immediately help not only farmers but everyone. If we're talking about even automobiles and getting rid of the specialized computer chips that you have to bring into a dealership and all that, would immediately impact people's lives. But even if we're just talking about farmers, we're talking about right to repair at the farmers level. The Farm Act, which was proposed in the previous Congress, it was torpedoed pretty much by the John Deere lobby alone. So you just had one corporation that's able to torpedo something that's going to help so many people, because John Deere profits off of it when they bring their farm equipment in to get maintenance, because they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because to clarify what right to repair is, it's corporations now, they know that they can build a product and then you buy it. Back in the 70s, if you bought a car, you got to fix the car. But now there's a lot of computer chips and all these things, and probably more apropos would be, imagine your iPhone or your Samsung, whatever. Imagine your cell phone. There's upgraded things, and instead of having to buy a whole new phone, you could just upgrade a couple things. Or if it's broken, you could just take the screen out and put it in. Well, that part you can do, but you can't do by yourself.
I like to say, it's like, imagine you had to hire and pay for a handyman every time you had to change a light bulb.
Yeah,
because the light bulb was specialized or something, right?
Perfect.
And so the bus. Thankfully, the bus was made in 2002, the engine 2003, and I've learned a lot about diesel mechanics over the last 6 months, and I like to call it the Millennium Falcon, because it works and it's strong, but
I can't promise you anything.
Sometimes we gotta sometimes I gotta hit the right thing to make the hyperdrive go. You need to put some wires together, but it's easy. At least I can maintain it instead of having all these specialized things.
Sure.
And what's crazy about it, they don't even make the parts for it anymore.
Yeah,
they don't even make the parts for it, but it's still easy to fabricate them, because they're just simple mechanical parts. And so if we need to fabricate something, we fabricate it.
Yeah.
But if there's a computer chip involved that's got that's proprietary, then they monopolize the maintenance of all these things. And God forbid you open up the hood of something and you lose the warranty on something new that you bought, and then it breaks. The computer chip goes out, because that's what they're designed to do. Anyway, all that to say is, so right to repair is a good example of a very simple piece of legislation. The right to repair was introduced by Congressman Neil Dunn, who's a Republican in this Congress. And he had 21 Democratic co-sponsors and 21 Republican co-sponsors. It's a bipartisan bill. Why hasn't it passed?
Yeah.
If Trump and Republican leadership cared about American farmers, American workers, and the American consumer, anyone who drives an automobile, that would be public law right now. But it's not, because there's a lobby against it. And that special interest that makes money off of it, when they're on the phone with those members of Congress on call time, they're telling them hey, so I got this check for you for $3,500. But I saw that you were a co-sponsor on the Repair Act. What's that about? I don't know, and then it's what's more important in that moment, right? It's not exactly that quid pro quo. It's more of a faucet is on, and if you don't do, if you support the Repair Act, they'll turn the faucet off, so you don't support it, right? But that's the fraud, waste, and abuse that we see in Congress, and that's why basic legislation that helps people just doesn't get done.
It's
the Repair Act. The Repair Act doesn't cost a dime to anyone. It's just federal protection
and it makes things easier.
Yes, it's just
for everyone, even for the corporation that doesn't have to spend the time to do the work.
Right. Well, they don't have to do that anymore, but that's how they make their money. But it's a predatory practice that costs the government $0 to enforce. And it still can't get passed because special interests profit off of that. And it's just a great example of why our government works for the 1% and not all of us. Not all of us who own automobiles, and the little light is going off because the sensor in the tire is broken. Not the tire, not the air pressure, it's the sensor. But the light won't go off. And so now you can't pass your emissions test because there's a warning light going off because the sensor has to get replaced. And there's only one place that you can replace that sensor. It's at the dealership.
Yeah.
It's predatory. Sorry, I could go on and on about
Oh no.
It's a good example of how our system is broken, and it's going to stay broken until we get money out of politics.
Exactly. And it's a perfect example of why people don't trust politicians.
Right.
You're not doing what's best for us. You're not doing your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to talk about Chicago public schools. So
the belly of the beast.
Yeah. So I graduated from Roosevelt High School in Albany.
Oh, okay.
Park.
Roosevelt was in our conference.
Yeah.
School I taught at. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell this story and it blows people's mind. When I went there, the little posters on the wall, it said, reading is fundamental, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and, education stuff. I worked at Stevenson up in Lincolnshire. Their posters said, remember to diversify your funds.
Whoa.
That being said,
that's interesting.
Can you, and I'm not even kidding, but can you explain to people how investing in inner city education is beneficial?
Yeah,
you can even give them some stories about what it's like to be a Chicago public school teacher.
Oh, I got stories. I mean, I'll say that it was the most meaningful work that I've ever done and probably ever will do.
Yeah.
The successes of my students are to this day my most prized resume bullet points or accomplishments, if you will. They're inspiring. And it's so rewarding to know that I was a part of that in some way. But to look at it at the macro level, so public education needs to be invested in robustly.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to talk about how we're investing in public education, because there is this push to think that technology is the answer. And technology is a tool. Mm-hmm. And as I found out with the bus, anything is possible with the right tools. And if you don't have the right tools, a lot of things are impossible. So it's true that technology is a tool and it makes things possible that otherwise would be impossible. But it's a tool. It's mm-hmm. not the answer. So I taught in a school that had 1-to-1 Chromebooks for every student. And it's great. Every student has a Chromebook. We can do so many more things than we could with pen and paper. Mm-hmm. But it's still just a tool. And mm-hmm. and what's lacking is the people, the teachers. That's where we need to invest, in my opinion. Yeah. Chromebooks are great, but if you don't have quality educators in the classroom, then the Chromebook doesn't mean anything. And what I mean by quality educators, that's why I said plural, is I believe we need more teachers in classrooms, or we need smaller class sizes. Because and the only way to do that is by having more teachers, paying more teachers, investing in more teachers, investing in the human capital. It's a lot easier to invest in Chromebooks because those are kind of cheap, right? But if you want to invest in human capital, that's expensive, right? And so I taught in a few co-taught classrooms with kids with IEPs, and we had special educators that taught alongside me. Those mm-hmm. were the best classes. Because we had 2 adults in the room and we'd riff off each other and we'd be able to teach and do this. And when I had a student teacher, that was the best class because we had 2 adults in the classroom and we'd be able to do all these cool things together. When you're one teacher in a classroom of 30 students, it's classroom management alone can be like, just getting everyone to like not fight is a win in some CPS schools. And so we need to invest in more teachers. We need to invest in teacher training. We need to make becoming a teacher, becoming a good teacher, more streamlined, easier to get the certification without getting rid of the unnecessary bureaucratic processes of getting an Illinois licensure, while still maintaining make sure that people are getting quality training to be effective public educators,
Yeah.
and get more teachers into the classroom, because that is what's going to make our students, perform better.
Yeah.
But also, if we want to talk about public education, this is why I really agree with the Chicago Teachers Union, about which is I'm a member of CTU, is that they look at public education holistically, and knowing that when students come into the classroom, the baggage they bring with them is going to either inhibit or promote the learning experience. And that's why we talk about healthcare and housing and poverty. Those are factors that if you don't, if you're living in poverty, if you don't have healthcare, if you don't have a stable housing, you're not going to learn.
Right.
You can't, you can't. And so it's easy to blame teachers when these students don't pass, and the public education seems to be failing. But it's not the public education, it's not the teachers. The majority of teachers are out there doing God's work, and it's incredibly difficult work, especially in Chicago public schools.
Mhm.
And I have tremendous respect for CPS teachers for doing the work that they do. It's just they're given an impossible task if we're not addressing those basic human needs when students come into the classroom. And so we want to talk about investing in public education. It's about investing in teachers, and then it's investing in the source of where the students are coming from in our society, and making a society that is able to function and have stable homes with loving parents and family units, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of like going back to like money and politics. You have to go to the source of the problem, right? The source of everything is money and politics. The source of most of public education's woes are the socioeconomic environment is the socioeconomic environment that students are coming from. And so we need to address that before we can even talk about what's happening in the classroom, because then they get in the classroom and there's gaps, and the gaps get bigger. And by the time they get to me, and I taught AP US government, and I taught seniors and juniors in social studies, world history, and you have students who don't know basic facts about like history and government. It's like, how am I supposed to teach you advanced level topics when we don't know you don't know that the Articles of Confederation exist, or you can't even tell me what they are. How are we supposed to talk about the differences between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution? But again, that all comes back to addressing the root causes of what creates those gaps. And then once we address those, investing in more teachers and human capital and quality educators in the classroom.
Yeah. And not for anything, but we have a lot of quality possible teachers out here, because this H-1B visa thing is killing some of us. So being a software designer, developer, do all the things that I do, now that corporate America isn't hiring me because they're importing workers, I would love to turn around and become a teacher and leverage everything that I have learned to elevate where I come from, the kids where I come from. But the salary is just not there.
Right. That's what I mean by like investing. Yes.
Yeah.
Make it like in Illinois, it's called a professional education license. Okay. So they're professionals, but if you're teaching in East St. Louis, Illinois, you are not making a professional's wage. Right.
Yeah.
So like we don't pay teachers what they should get paid, because teachers do 3 jobs at the same time. They plan, then they teach what they plan, and then they have to grade it. Oh, and by the way, they're also classroom management, and they're a mentor, a coach, a shoulder
They're
to cry on.
babysitting.
They have all of these different hats that they have to wear. And that's why I like when I taught as a young single man, and I can't imagine having to come home to your own family after that. Like I was just like working nonstop. I didn't have time to lesson plan during the school day. I would lesson plan at home and grade at home. Then I'd go teach, and it's like it's easy to get. That's why the shelf life is 5 years for a public school teacher in Illinois, because it's easy to get fried that way. But yeah, if salaries were higher, it would encourage more people to become educators. And also, specifically in Illinois, the certification requirement needs to be adapted to account for professional experience outside of academic experience.
Mhm.
I mean, imagine you were a journalist for 20 years, but you didn't have a degree in English. Okay, so what? I think you know how to write. Like
Sure.
that should be able to supplant so you don't have to go back to school and take Rhetoric 104 to be able to teach English and writing composition. I think that'd be a great way to help get more teachers, because there's a teacher shortage in Illinois, and I'm pretty sure across the United States as well, because it's not incentivized to become a teacher, and it's hard. You have to jump through hoops.
And the little bit of salary that you do make, you have to buy your own Kleenex. You have to buy your
Yes.
own school supplies.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
are you going to give me, I don't know how much they make. I really don't. If you're going to give me 30, 40, 50,000 a year to be a teacher, and then a lot of that goes towards the instruments that I need to teach, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And then being from the inner city, it's so annoying to go to school that it's underfunded, but when it comes to surveilling and policing, the sky is the limit for all of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
We
Totally.
want books, and you keep giving us cameras.
Yeah. The metal detectors. Yeah. I know.
So, and then I like telling this story too. I was in Austria a handful of years ago, and we went on the subway. And in Austria, you go down, and there's a machine over there on the side. So you go and you get your ticket. There's no gates, no nothing. And then you go and you wait for the train. The train doors open up. You get in, you get to your place, you get out. And I was talking to my Austrian friend, and I said, "You don't have anyone like checking tickets?" He said, "Did you buy a ticket?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Then why you need someone to check it?" If you treat people, like adults, generally speaking, everyone is going to do this thing because everyone understands that this train is important, and if you pay, that money goes to keeping this train moving.
Mm-hmm. But that only works in a society that allows for people to work and earn enough to live in the
To be
present,
adults.
save for the future, and raise a family. Right? Yeah, to be adults. Right? If you're living off of the federal minimum wage of what, $7.15 an hour, $7.25 an hour,
Yeah.
it's $15,000 a year.
And again, hopping over the turnstile there like that, a lot of times that's just that little financial gap that we're dealing with.
Sure. I thought
know?
I thought it funny when Mamdani was talking about making the buses free in New York City, and people were losing their minds over that for some reason. Like, people pay for the bus. Like, what bus are you riding? Like when I was living in DC, I never saw anyone pay for the bus. I mean, I had well, in Chicago, I have the veterans Ventra card, so it's just great. I get the ride for free.
Oh, cool.
No one else gets to. um, and same with DC, I had like a government issued one for like commuting to work. And so when I would take the bus, and people would always just walk on and never like pay or scan a ticket or anything. And so I thought it was funny. The people who are like complaining about like New York City buses being free, or that there'd be like homeless people on them, I'm like, you are not riding public buses. I'm sorry. you have no idea what public transit is like. So you can withhold your comments, sir. until you ride a public bus. Don't talk to me about it.
What part of Illinois are you originally from?
So I was born on the southwest corner of the city in tiny little Mount Greenwood, and then we moved out to Orland Park, which is a southwest suburb.
Mhm.
And now I live in Wrigleyville. I can see Wrigley Field from my window here.
I am very jealous, my friend.
I am a White Sox fan, but I love baseball, so it's just
That's
nice to
it.
be around.
Interview's over. Interview's over. We're done.
Hey, you know
Thank
what?
you for coming by. Thank you
think
for coming by. See you on the south side, maybe.
about the integrity that I have, right? I'm not afraid to be who I am. No one chooses to be a White Sox fan, right? No one chooses to live in that. People will move to Chicago and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll choose to be a Cubs fan because like
Yeah.
this is fun and like no one chooses to be a White Sox fan. Remember that. No, but that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I was
Hey,
I
that cross that Chicago Cubs fans have had to carry for
Same with
108
the White
years.
Sox. I mean, the White Sox 88 years before 2005.
Yeah.
And if you remember in 2016, when I remember when the Cubs made it to the World Series, ESPN, the national ESPN network, had on their ticker, this is the first time that the World Series has been in Chicago for 108 years. So I'm like, did you forget about
We're just
2005? We swept the Astros.
I know
leave
that
it,
was
leave it to
that
the
was
Cubs. The Cubs have to bring it down to Game 7. It's raining, extra innings, of course.
Yeah.
Make it the Hollywood ending.
God
The
had
Sox
yeah.
The Sox were so good that they swept the Astros. They beat them so bad that they left the National League. But no one talks about that. God forbid. No, let's talk about the Cubs and their
Yeah,
Hollywood
mad
finish, which
respect.
was magical. It was magical.
Mad respect to the Sox for that. That was a fun year, man.
Yes.
That was a fun year. And for the record, I'm not gonna say this if I'm on the north side, but I do have a White Sox jersey in
That's
my
good.
closet.
There we go. There we go. Hey,
Yeah.
look, we got the Pope. Come on. We got God on our side.
Yeah, he's from the suburbs, though.
He's a Sox fan. Sox fan.
Yeah, you can't be perfect. Oh my goodness. What are some of the, let's say you have friends visiting from outside Chicago. Where are some of the spots you take them?
I get asked the question a lot. I think when it comes to pizza, there is one correct answer, and it's Pequod's, the original on North and Clybourne.
There's a whole bunch of people that are clapping right now.
Yeah, I mean, Pequod's is for sure the best. Their jalapeno poppers too are like phenomenal. Like they do a lot of stuff well there. When it comes to hot dogs, I also think undoubtedly there's only one place, and it's Jimmy's on is that Ogden and Pulaski? I can't remember exactly what street it's out there in Hermosa.
Yep.
Yeah, Jimmy's. I mean, all these depression dogs kind of taste the same. It's really the fries, and they're double beef fat fries. You can't beat them. I used to go there all the time when I was teaching.
That sounds delicious. There's this little spot. I used to live on Harlem and Dickens on the Chicago side of Harlem, and there was a spot on. It was like one block south. I can't remember. Is it not Narragansett? Anyway, one block south, there was a place called Three Dog Night. It was just a mobile home that they turned into a restaurant. And boy, Chicago hot dog and their fries, they had the shoestring fries.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you can eat about 87 in one pinch. Oh, that's
yeah.
That
reminds me of another place that I like one of the coolest dive bars. It's almost not even a dive bar; it's more like a living room. But there's a place in Ukrainian Village, just north of Chicago, like Chicago and Winchester. It's called Nilda's Place. Now I haven't been there in about 8 years, but I used to live right down the street from it. And Nilda's Place is you walk inside and there's just like a living room couch, and then there's a bar, and then there's a mini pool table, and then there's this old Puerto Rican woman named Nilda and her two chihuahuas. And that's just it. She lives upstairs, and that's the bar. Like she hasn't changed the price of beer since like the Depression, and it's just like it's a very unique experience walking in there. And she was the one too. She loves Malort, and she was the one who told me that.
Oh boy!
If you ever have like a stomach issue, or if you ever hung over, just take a little shot of Malort, and you'll feel grand after that.
You won't feel grand. You'll forget that everything else exists because you're trying to wonder what the hell is happening in your mouth. Malort is special. Malort is it. If you haven't tried it and you're a little adventurous, go ahead, give it. It's like
you have to try it. I
it's like
people to
herbs
try it
and medicine and gasoline all mixed together.
I mean, so it's wormwood. Yes, Malort is actually the Swedish word for wormwood.
Yeah,
So it's just like it's a base distillate that's steeped in wormwood for a few days it's just a giant vat, and then they
yeah.
strain it and they serve it. You might be asking, how do I know so much about it? Because I wrote a book about it. And in fact, that's how I funded the bus.
Yeah.
I took the proceeds of the book and used that to buy the bus. And it's so like basically this campaign is kind of like fueled by Malort, in a way. It's funny 'cause I'm pretty sure I could pour Malort in the fuel tank and it probably would work. I mean, they both taste about the same.
If you go to probably what a little bit south of you, my sister runs a bar, Burwood Tap.
Your sister runs that bar?
Uh-huh.
I know that. Yes, I know that bar.
Yeah, go by and say Carlos says hi. See if they don't give you
Okay.
some alert. Yeah, check in with either Mimi is my sister,
Okay.
and is the owner, my buddy who's the owner. So yeah, just go say hi to them and they'll get you some alert. Tell them you wrote a book about it. They will be tickled that you wrote a whole book about Malort.
And it's I'm biased, but it's a pretty good story too. I actually became part of the story. What we would call, in Hunter Thompson's words, Gonzo style journalism.
Yeah,
Because as I was doing research on the book, I actually went to Sweden, where Carl Jeppsson, for Jeppson's Malort, Carl Jeppsson is from, this small town called Ystad on the south end of Sweden. I found a farm that grows Malort near where he lived, and I was writing about it, and then I come home and I talked to the owner of Malort, and he was like, "That's interesting because we're actually looking for a new distributor or a new person to buy Malort from." And then I told him about this farm. It's like, well, we need to get connected, and so they flew us out to their farm, and they have this thing called Malort night, and it's when all these farmers come together with their own versions of their Malort, because Malort was like basically a homemade drink. And so we brought our Malort, we brought Jeppson's Malort out there, and we tried all these different Malorts. We did this like ritual ceremony where we like cut the Malort and the wormwood and stuff like
can you
that.
still see colors?
I can hear them. And then at the end of the night, the farmer asked the owner, is like, "So are we going to do this?" And the owner took a shot of Malort, was like, "Yes," and he shook his hand. It was like, we brokered a deal to save Malort, and the Malort was made by wormwood that was grown in the hometown of Carl Jeppsson. It was a really, really cool, fun story. Back when I
Awesome.
was younger and more carefree and not living in the political hellscape that we now live in.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It's awesome that like it's awesome that I'm talking to more teachers that are making their way into politics
Mm.
because you guys understand the world differently. You guys actually care, and you care enough to be face to face with the future. And again, going to school when I did, and you could tell, you walk into a class, you can tell a teacher's fed up with your bullshit already. and we're not even 5 seconds, the bell hasn't even rung yet.
Oh, I know the feeling. I remember when I got mobilized to go to Afghanistan, I was like joking with my students, "I would rather go to war than spend another day in this class with you," which was not untrue. It's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Have we touched on anything
I
that
think
we
I
that
think
you
we
want to make
touched on
sure?
I think we touched on everything. That was
Yeah.
that was the most thorough, I think, interview I've ever done. Um,
Yeah. I just like talking to people, especially people that are doing the right kind of work, because I'm not afraid of progress. I'm not afraid of technology. I'm not afraid of any of that as long as all of us are good. As
mhm.
long as all of us have a real chance at making moves in life, like, some of this stuff, that this current administration is doing, a lot of it, the way that they do it is just for show. But I can't, like,
Well, it's because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how
yeah,
to govern. I mean, it's like Pete Hegseth is like the perfect example of like a company commander who doesn't know how to do his job. So he focuses on doing push-ups with the boys because PT is easy. You know what's harder? Developing like patrol routes and combat plans. His job is to run the military, not to do pull-ups, and he can't even do those well. I mean,
he's so trash. He's
it's
so
like, and that's what they
trash.
all do. They do this performative stuff. They all do performative stuff because they can't do the substantive stuff. And
Yeah.
so they have to pretend like they know what they're doing. Like he cares about like uniform standards and stuff like that. My company, my first, when I was a lieutenant, my first company commander, his camis were riddled with holes. I remember he had a giant hole in his on his crotch, like the seam was coming across, and the sergeant major was like making an issue about like the uniform appearance on a deployment, and our company commander was like, guys, listen, I know I'm not the best standard bearer for uniform standards, but sergeant major was talking to the battalion commander and wants us to, be stitching up our uniforms. So I'm going to be the one. Be the first one to do that. But he didn't care that his uniform had holes in it, and neither did we. And he didn't care if our uniforms had holes in them.
Yeah.
What he cared about was if we were
But
being
this
good
is when you
infantry
guys were
officers.
deployed.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
he cared that we were good at doing our job, good at being operational, not like these silly uniform standards. So like whenever I hear someone talk about uniform standards, I'm like, you just come on. I want the pilot to know how to fly. I want the infantrymen to know how to do their job, right? That's the stuff that matters. I don't care if your ribbon stack is an eighth of an inch above the lapel or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
only
and you can
officers who
tell
don't know what they're doing. Only officers who don't know what they're doing
exactly.
focus
You
on
can
that
tell
stuff.
by the way they talk.
Mhm.
They start using they start combining all of these active words is the wrong way to say it, but all of these words that sound good, they start compounding these words, and you're like, you're just talking out of your ass.
Yeah. And I
Just
love
say M16. Just say,
I love when they would say something like, how can we expect you to, follow orders in combat and to put the machine gun on the right PDF if you can't get your ribbon stacked right? I'm like, how about we make sure they know how to do that instead of the ribbon stack? Let's have them drill that proficiency.
that's
And
exactly.
who cares about the uniform standards? We'll figure that out later if we need to. Let's make sure they know how to deploy the machine gun and put it on the right azimuth, as opposed to, if you can't keep your hair cut, then you're not going to be able to follow orders in combat. Like that is not true. It's so incongruous that it's always bad leaders who don't know their job, who can't substantively perform, so they have to be performative to make it look like they know what they're doing, to be authoritative, like, standards, these are my standards. My standard was know your fucking job. Do that well.
Right. 100%. 100%. Don't pay attention to what people say. Pay attention to what people do.
Yes.
Period. Someone's going to be sitting there. Oh, yeah. If you're in a foxhole and you're asking your buddy, throw the grenade, he's not going to turn to you and say, no, the back of your hair is touching your collar.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It just
police
doesn't
yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. I love it. I am so excited that you're running because, one, you're a teacher. That needs to be addressed ASAP. Two, you're a veteran. That alone speaks volumes. And three, the fact that you are in these streets and you're doing what you're doing. I'm so happy that you exist. I'm so happy that you have the courage to go out there and confront idiots like ICE, that you're out there teaching kids, that you're out there and it seems like you're doing all the right things. And I'm so excited that we can have a conversation and I don't feel like you're full of shit.
That's what everyone wants, right? We just all want to be authentic and know that someone's being authentic with us. And that's what we do. And you know what? It's not hard. It's actually a lot easier to
Yeah.
just be yourself and
Don't be a
trust. Like,
liar. It's easier.
if you're doing something for the right reason, you don't have to be performative. You don't have to put on airs. And so you
Yeah.
can just be yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not that polished and I'm a little rough around the edges, but that's also because I'm a real person and that's what real people are. And I would rather have an authentic person who's doing something for the right reason and choosing authenticity over some kind of performance to be running this country, to being the people who are writing our laws and legislating. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to live my values. I'm trying to walk the walk. I'm trying to do rather than say.
Yeah.
And that starts with just being radically authentic. And authenticity is it's just so contagious. And people just they crave it. And it's addicting. And people want to be with authentic people. I mean, that's why so do I, right? I love being with authentic people. And that's the worst part about the campaign is politics does attract a lot of narcissists and just people who are inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have like no patience, like, because everyone can see through people who are being inauthentic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't, I don't, but if someone's being authentic with me, then I'm like, I want to be best friends with you, right? I want to know more about you. Tell me more about yourself. We can have a 2-hour conversation. But the moment you start being inauthentic and putting on airs, you're going to see right through it and be like, I don't have time for this. Good luck. You know.
Do you think growing up in the Chicagoland area, do you think that your bullshit meter is tweaked a little bit more, is a little bit more refined?
I would say it was probably from, I think it's more refined from Chicago public schools that, you get those, especially high school, right? Those kids will push your limits and they'll try to bullshit you every single day. And you just have to be on your game. But no, no, not today. Not today, Satan. So I see through you.
I speak for Chicago public school students when I say, I'm sorry. Thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for fighting through.
I get it. It's part of the game. They're kids. It's what they do. It's what I did. I was a bullshitter when I was in high school too. I mean, it's just part of it. It's part of the trade, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you have to get good at, that's why seasoned teachers are really good at it, right? They can see through it, like, no.
Yeah. Like you said, not today, Satan. Hey, so give everyone one last pitch and then give them all the information where they can find you online.
Okay, so my final pitch is, if you think the status quo is working, then there are 3 wonderful establishment candidates in this Democratic primary for U.S. Senate in Illinois that are actively reinforcing the status quo by doing a money chase, by raising as much money as they can to fund ads and be beholden to the donor class instead of the working class. So if the status quo is working for you, vote for one of the people or support one of the people that are actively reinforcing the status quo. But if you're like me and you're fed up and you think the status quo has reached a critical failure, then now is the time to act boldly. Now is the time to take a chance. Now is the time to take that long shot. I understand that's what this campaign is. We are a long shot, but that's what we need right now. We need to act boldly. We need to dream big, and we need to make it happen. And it can happen if we come together. Because while money corrupts, money does not vote. It guarantees corruption, but it does not guarantee success. The only thing that we need to win is you, your vote, your support, spread the word, so we can do it if we all work together. So if you're fed up with the status quo, I'm your candidate. I'm the fed up candidate. And if you want to get involved, I think that was the second part of the question.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved, on our campaign. We need volunteers to phone bank. We need volunteers to knock on doors. We also need some money, because as much as we're taking money out of politics and this campaign runs on hope, the bus still runs on number 2 diesel. So we do need gas money. Right? We need gas money, and we need money to pay my staff, because I pay my staff a living wage to try and live my values, and people are very expensive. But I believe in investing in people over technology and ads and consultants and things like that. So we invest in people. We reach out to people. This is a people-powered campaign, but people are expensive. So if you could donate to our campaign, we'd appreciate that to help us get over the finish line over the next 2 months. You can go to kevinryan.com. You can sign up to volunteer there. You can also make a donation there. We also have a pretty sick merch store that is now operating. If you want to get some New Deal merch, because I am a New Deal Democrat from a new generation, and we're trying to promote that the New Deal was when this country worked for everyone. It's the most successful that Democrats ever were. We elected a president 4 times. The Democrats were so successful that they had to amend the Constitution. They had to say, you can't run anymore. There's no more. 2 terms is the limit. That's how successful FDR was. Like, they had to change the rules of the game because people love the New Deal so much. Right. Yeah. So if you want some New Deal merch, go to kevinryan.com, sign up to volunteer, get some merch, and you can also make a small donation if you'd like to.
Excellent. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come talk to me. Again, I'm not going to stop saying this. The fact that you're a teacher, a veteran, and you are putting in the work, I'm a big fan.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And with that, everybody, we're out.